Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. So that I can be sure that nobody is sleeping here, okay? Welcome to the session, Big Data with Azure, right? Where to begin? We talk about concepts and best practices. So just get on with the systems, as to get to know. So, okay, let's begin. Little things about me before we start, like who am I, how I've been kind of surviving in this IT world. So I have over 25 years of IT experience. I work on my own as a DBIA consulting. I'm an MVP, data platform MVP, Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. This is my 13th year as MVP. So that's one achievement I could say. 25 years of experience, if I classify my experience as DBA, developer and all that. So how do I classify myself as I'm 100% DBA? And towards architecture, around 85%, project management, delivery and developer over there. But overall that, I'm a geek. We are all geeks, right? Everybody is a geek here, that's why we are here today. List of my speaking engagements so far since the year 2005, I would say. So Microsoft TechEd, SQL Saturdays, majority of European SQL Saturdays, and SQL Bits in UK. Basically, I live in UK. I manage my own SQL Server user group affiliated to the PASS, Power BI Summit, and as well as SQL Relay. Not sure how I can do this before I lose that. Okay. Okay, my favorite activities, reading and obviously sharing knowledge. I read a lot and as well as share my knowledge about what I find it. Building, Lego. Lego is my favorite as well, and as well as traveling. So this is one aspect that I quite enjoy in my job as well. And this is my 51st country I visited so far. So that's why I enjoy traveling. So far, this is, I need to update my public speaking as well. This will be 99th public speaking conference for me. So one more to go for century. Yeah. I've written 3 books so far. Reviewed 11 SQL Server books, SQL Server related, but technically reviewed. And as well as this is where exactly. So the 3 books that I'm mentioning is, one is probably you might have come across SQL Server 2008 R2 Administration Cookbook. This is the first cookbook kind of format, talks about a recipe style. So we all love food, right? So how do you prepare food? So same way, the practice, the best practices, the concept that I've defined here. And also SQL Server 2012, Cube Security, that only talks about Cube Security, what you need to take care of these things and as well. And being MVP, I was fortunate to be project of this deep dives, MVP deep dives volume 2. This is more or less kind of done towards a charity. So the proceedings from this book, deep dives book, goes to a charity. So I don't get paid anything, but still I love kind of doing those kind of activities. Okay, agenda. So let's talk about agenda. We have a huge list of agenda, 100 items to talk about. No, I'm just kidding, right? So we all like data, right? We all like small data, big data, everything. That's why we are here. You're all geeks. That's why I can see a good turnout here. So I can say that this is the biggest attendance in SQL Saturdays. So far, my biggest, was 56 for this talk, for the big data. I guess it might have crossed today, but this is good. We are all here today. So let's jump on to the topic now. So enough about me and me. What differentiates in this today world, actually, what differentiates today for the organizations, actually? One thing that, kind of organizations are thriving, we can see a lot of changes happening in that. That is nothing but data, right? Data that comes from different forms, different sites, different activities. How you can understand your data is more important. How can you capture that? Not just even capturing, how do you combine, how do you relate that data, make it more meaningful for your organization? You can help the business to grow, and obviously that will grow the revenue. So the key strategic opportunity with the data is nothing but the kind of technology the IT would say. So let's call it as IT, technology innovation, or however you say, and how it can to architect the business innovation, because change is kind of happening there. Change is constant. You've been asked to do less. You've been asked to do more with less, not less with more. So with more with less, because everything, any task has been given to you is something you need to understand what is the pressure out there, because business is constantly pressurized for the new innovations, how you can generate the revenue. So, okay, the challenges is time, one thing is, and the budget, and as well as the resources. Time is nothing but if you talk to a business person, what if they would say that they need this particular solution sometime yesterday. So it was like that. And as well as the resources are more important. How do you understand? How do we do that? So let's take a good example of how data has kind of evolved over a period of time. So looking at the graph way of megabytes, kind of gigabytes, terabytes, and the petabytes, and the bottom layer is kind of data complexity kind of thing. So ERP, CRM related products, it go between megabytes and the gigabytes, because that's a maximum size of that. And in terms of like how your ERP applications are classified, and I think back in 2000, after 2000 as well, this is what has come. Web 2.0 kind of evolved into kind of technologies and systems that have been evolved. But now we say that last 2 years, this is what's happening. The big data. This is more important of how the different kinds of data, different types of data are coming up. As you can see, wikis and blogs, RFID devices. So these are different aspects of actually the data is growing. So now the data, because previously I think 5 years ago, if your database size was 50 gigs, that was classified as a very large database, right? But not anymore, because even our phones have got more storage than your servers nowadays. So that's how the storage is becoming more cheaper and kind of happening to that. So just a simple concept of how you can calculate from 1 bit to exactly, the yottabyte is something, this is what, the data is increasing. So how it is calculated, like 1024 megabytes is 1 gigabyte, or 1024 gigabytes is 1 terabyte. So I'm not sure, technical problems. Okay, don't mark on this one, okay? Right, so having said that, let's see how database traditional approach would be look like. Right, starting from left hand side, the source systems, ERP, the kind of the key applications that you have that would go into a staging mode, which is ETL, and that jump onto data warehouse. When I say data warehouse, it will be multiple databases or a single database, and at the end it would go to the business intelligence and kind of analytics you need to build on top of that. Right? What are the peak points of this traditional approach? So because the data grows, as we see that since last 5-6 years, or even between 2010 and 2020, that's what 50 times the data has been grown. Kind of, let's talk about the web, let's talk about the applications. This is what it is going around. So that brings up to the breaking point of the traditional approach actually, because data grows and grows and grows, because that's how the design, that's how the traditional RDBMS systems have been defined. These are added points, these are added breaking points to the traditional approach. As you can see, the new data right here on the slide here over here is new data, more like sensors data and more like the social data, because everybody is very active on social networking nowadays. You all might have like the Twitter account, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatnot, everything. You are sharing something that you see it is good, and that's how it is, how you can understand. So that brings about the new data types. Previously, relational world, it's just structured or unstructured, or maybe like semi-structured. So, but now it's unstructured. So it's because you don't know the structure of the data. That's how it comes into. So not only that, the new type of data which is the fourth bit, which is cloud-bound data, right? Cloud is also kind of picking up a lot. So now everything is in the cloud as well. So how you can take advantages of the cloud and how you can kind of integrate that with your on-premise data, that is also important. So looking at the traditional approach, traditional way of how it comes from the OLTP, from ERP, that goes into the original data. This is what we all are familiar with ETL, right? Extract, transform, and load, because you want to extract the data, transform the data. That's where you put a meaningful to that particular data set, like this is what this data relates to, and you load that data into a staging area, or profile the data, and that goes into the final, into the database layer, right? and that goes finally to the BI tools or maybe the data marts for the data analyst usage. But how it is changed in the big data side is different. Let's take an example here. Big data is something here. What we talk in the big data world, ETL is called as ingest. Extract and load. You're only extracting the data and loading. You're not transforming. The transformation happens once that the data has been loaded into the systems actually. So just a little change of how your traditional way of, how this is, as kind of captured. And I see a lot of people are taking photos and all that. These slides are available for you to download from the SQL Saturday website. So let's have a concentration on the, what we are discussing. So don't worry about kind of you're missing something. You're not missing anything. You have
pictures of you.
Okay. Then, thank you. That was good. Right. So because we talked about device explosion, right? The kind of device, kind of number of devices getting added, and the social networks, number of users, kind of adding up more and more. And as well as the connections, different types of connections happening, right? Not only that, cheap storage, as we talked in the beginning, the storage is cheaper nowadays. So you can get kind of maximum storage with just a simple thing. And the computing is inexpensive. When I say computing, that's what we can do a lot with our phones nowadays, because our phones are all 64-bit. Everything is 64-bit. We can do a lot of these things. So how does this comes? Kind of 90% of the data that we see actually has been created in the last 2-3 years. So that's what the estimation, that is what is happening actually. So by 2020, the expectation is it will go 40 trillion gigabytes, actually the amount of data that's get generated. Enormous amount of data that comes in a different form. One is online behavior, kind of social networking, like how you share your, kind of your data. Samples of the medical ailments, so that's where exactly the data comes into, exports into a different arenas actually. And as well as the retail sector, the purchasing habits. So how your retail can, sectors like certain areas, certain customers only would like to buy certain products. So how these retailers, the shopping, kind of how they can understand. That is also more important data. And the crime statistics. Yeah, the public means the government is taking the help to reduce the crime. So how these things are happening, and as well as the weather, Internet of Things, IoT, you might have heard of that, how we get the weather prediction actually, how they can do these things. That's what the data gets collected in different, kind of areas, and also 24/7 outpatient monitor, because how the hospitals are monitoring, kind of the key, kind of elements. So this is what classifies the big data. It is nothing but a high volume, high velocity, and a high variety. So these are the three key aspects, because everything, volume, velocity, and the variety. I'll explain about what are these things actually in the next slides. So how you can take that information, capture that, and make it meaningful so that you can process, so your business you can help the business to take in decision making. So how data trends are happening. You can also predict on some things actually. The technology can help us to predict those things. Right. However, there are few challenges within big data. What are they? Like how to determine, how to get the value out of that, right? You have data, that's fine, you can capture the data, but how you can make it more meaningful is more important. Not only that, obtaining skills, actual skills of how to understand. So this is where exactly the data science has come into picture nowadays, because most of the technologies, most of the vendors are talking about data science actually. Not only that, you have existing systems, a huge load of technical data of existing systems. How you integrate the existing IT into with these new technologies. So these three key challenges are more important to understand. So when we talk about, there are 5 V's to the big data understanding actually. One thing we talked about, one is volume, because it comes like enormous. It's not just megabytes or gigabytes. Sometimes it goes even to the petabytes actually. And the velocity, sometimes it comes very frequent, sometimes it will not. And in terms of the means veracity, it's not a constant. It might happen. Let's say the weather, kind of related things, or maybe something related to the sports. Maybe the, like the Football World Cup. During that time, because that's where the shoppers wanted to buy certain things, certain items. This is what it is. It is not constant, and also the variety. The data is a variety. It's not just a simple just name and address or something. It comes as a picture, it comes as an audio file, it comes as a video file, or sometimes it comes even to understand like these plots and everything. So these are the 4 V's, 4 important things that we can take. Fifth V is nothing but the value. So how do you extract the value out of these 4 things is something is more aspects to these actually, right? I would say there are certain things which we can understand about the mind mapping, the fundamental concept of what is the big data. So this is what I would like to give. So I'll just expand on these ones actually. So if I zoom it, I think unfortunately the zoom it here, if I can see if I can zoom it, yeah. There you go. So if we talk about the big data types, this is what. When we talk about big data types, those are nothing but semi-structured, structured and unstructured. And when you talk about adoption and the planning considerations, these are the things, these are the concepts that would come into the picture. And if I zoom to the right hand side, so this is what it is. When we talk about enterprise technologies, big data kind of goes into these areas, OLTP, OLAP, ETL, and as well as Hadoop. And kind of the types of data analysis actually. How do you do the qualitative analysis, the quantitative analysis? So the maths, the science behind the data is also more important. So this is what it is. So this is what's happening. So that is one thing. So let's talk about the fundamental data aspects of that, right? So let's look at the big data landscape. So how many technologies and how many services to be there? So are you ready to say wow? Wow. Ah, there you go. That's good. So you're not sleeping. That's good. So this is what it is. See that different layers of that actually. You can see how many companies and how many services, how many kind of innovations are happening day to day. And this is constant change. These are not just like that. These are not like our traditional way of Microsoft, Oracle, or IBM or something actually. So, and this is what exactly the constant change that is happening. The kind of the technologies in the different layers, the data transformation and all that. So I do have a link for this one where you can download this picture, so you can look at that so that I don't want to give you the the blind eye on this one. But yeah, this is what it is. So it's big. The market segments. So in terms of the individual market segment is also more important. In terms of hardware, what are the kind of different things offered by HP or Dell, and even talk about the software specific on analytics and the BI. These are the key companies that are doing, and as well as for the managed services, for technical services, which is specific to the Hadoop, Hortonworks, Cloudera. These 2 are the key players in the Hadoop actually. So, and as well as IBM are also doing actually. So, and also Microsoft is doing in terms of the cloud. So let's jump on to the actual what is a Hadoop and what is how Azure can help you to get to that actually. Introducing Apache Hadoop, which is an open source. Open source means yes, it's free to use. You don't need to pay a license, and it is kind of, I think this is 11th year as Apache open source that has been done. It is a highly scalable distributed file system. Highly scalable means you don't need to worry about whether you get a contention, whether you have performance problem. Distributed processing on data nodes. The defined data nodes can be used to process the data as such actually. So Hadoop stores the files in distributed file system. That's how it is in terms of the storage and the computation it uses, and as well as it can store very large amounts of data. It is not limited by storage or something. It can store any file, and it randomly stores where exactly it is. So how does a core Hadoop would look like? So when you're talking to a person who are working in Hadoop, these are the nominal kind of words they would use, kind of worker node, name node, data node, resource manager. Beside that, these are the things actually which we talk about: YARN, HDFS, PIC, Flume, Spark. All that I'll show you exactly what they mean exactly. I know they sound like a kind of animal names. Yes, there are animal names actually which can help you on all of these. So this is how the core Hadoop would look like. This is what it is. And different use cases of Hadoop actually. These are 7 key layers where Hadoop or the big data can be used as well. The first thing, how the innovation has happened actually in the medical sector, the healthcare. So that's where exactly the big data has been evolved. So that's how IBM started working on these things. So the healthcare was the first kind of industry started using. And now the financial services are using nowadays. So as we know, they are all using like how they can understand. The retail is also more important. You know, the like your shopping cart, right? If you're shopping regularly on a particular kind of vendor over there, they would also give you like points and they give you discounts like that. So how retail can understand that, and also the telecoms. So how the telecom companies are giving. So these are the key industry areas which you can look into that. The variety we talked about in terms of different, these are the different varieties of the data we can see. The sentimental data in terms of capturing from different layers, and as well as the click stream. When you say click stream, that somebody sends something related to that, you know the hashtags. So how those data is captured in the Twitter. So how Twitter captures the hashtag, or maybe by other tools, and as well as the sensors. So how the sensor, the sensor thing, actually the automatic door things happens, and the number of conferences that are happening, how many people have attended. These are automatic things. So geographical analysis, actually the weather related ones, the geospatial things happens. Data velocity, as we talked about, the velocity it is happening very fast. It can stream the live data and process actually. Yes, you can get near real time. When the data gets processed, the business can look into those actually. Taking an example of data input, the multiple applications, different kinds of applications, and that goes to the event broker. Within the big data, it is called event broker. That's where the data capturing is called event brokering, and the stream processing that's where your data gets processed. It's more like a stream processing that it is taking it from the different aspects. And outgoing, where you can kind of extract the data in form of KPIs, in form of reports, dashboards, and whatnot. Hadoop is nothing but a portfolio of different kind of the projects actually. So we can see the projects here actually. So again, if I go back, if I zoom that actually, you would see exactly what I meant to say. So the data access layer actually, you can see Yarn. Yarn is nothing but the data operating system. Within the Hadoop, Yarn is kind of operating system. HDFS, which is nothing but Hadoop distributed file system. And the batching, you can use a MapReduce. So the batch process is nothing but what they call the MapReduce jobs. Scripting, it is used, the technology is called PIC. SQL, either you can use Hive or Tej or different things. And the NoSQL, HBase, that's the NoSQL database for the Hadoop actually. And also the searching capabilities using the Solar. And authentication, yes, security is also the important aspects of that. The accessibility layer, the authentication, the different layers of authorizations are managed using the Falcon, using the Knox, and the Ranger. So these are the different, kind of the meaningful names as that comes. So this is what it is. I just want to give you the list of what exactly it means. Spark is nothing but the compute engine. As you all know, in the SQL Server, the query engine is called, kind of the query engine. In the Hadoop, it is nothing but the Spark. So Spark runs all your queries, or how it works. Uzi, which is a workflow scheduler, similar to SSIS. So how you schedule the workflow, how you define the workflow of your process is more important. Ambari, because Hadoop, it is on the Linux actually, so you don't have a graphical interface for that actually. So that's how Hortonworks and other vendors developed which is called Ambari, which is nothing but it will give you the graphical interface to manage your cluster resources. Scoop, this is nothing but, you all know about the BCP and the bulk insert, right? In the big data world, it is called Scoop. It is nothing but taking the data in, or kind of taking data out as well. So that's what it is called in terms of the Scoop methods. For the data workflow, this is what it is. Falcon, Scoop, these are the data workflow layers actually. This is a high-level picture of how Hadoop, so these are the key ingredients of the Hadoop actually, where you can look into that. Right, that's about the Hadoop. Let's talk about the HD Insight, which is nothing but 100% Apache Hadoop, yes, and powered by the cloud. And that's where Microsoft and Hortonworks, these two partner together actually. This is where we are getting HD Insight. So this is where exactly we have in Azure. When we talk about Azure, there are 4 different layers, like 3 different layers. IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, as we can see. So how HD Insight classified is PaaS, which is nothing but platform as a service. That is nothing but provides you a platform as a service, provides you the the computing power, provides you the storage. You don't need to manage, because infrastructure as a service is nothing but you need to define everything, you need to configure everything. But whereas Microsoft Azure provides the HD Insight as a form of PaaS, which is PaaS method of that. So that's what, because Hadoop on Windows, yes, you can add it. Oh, sorry, yeah. So these are different things actually, and it integrates with the Microsoft BI, so you don't need to change the way that you're doing at the moment. And enterprise ready, yes, because it works on the Windows Server plus Windows Azure, so whatever you are doing on-premise, you can continue doing that on cloud. So everything, the Azure authentication, the Active Directory authentication layers also it does. And in terms of broader access actually, so you're nothing but you're extending capabilities of your business users, not just to the SQL Server alone, you can also onto the Hadoop, and which is managed perfectly as you do in your traditional world. And all the contributions proposed within the Azure HD Insight, it goes to the GitHub actually, as we all know, GitHub is a developer, kind of network, sharing network. So everybody shares there as well. You can look into that. You can make it better as well. So that's where everything that you do on HD Insight is also available on the GitHub to make it better. So HD Insight is nothing but Microsoft big data solution using Hadoop. Yes, it is still open source, because whatever Hadoop whatever open source things that happens, Apache makes it happen. Microsoft also takes that into them, and they add some more APIs on and a part of that. And it uses by default HDFS on the bottom layer. This is what it is. Employs open source Hortonworks, because they have partnered with Hortonworks. As I said, Cloudera and Hortonworks are the two key players in the Hadoop, like how it used to be previously IBM and Oracle, and then Microsoft joined in the traditional world, where that's where the Hadoop is, Cloudera and Hortonworks. Yes.
So now HDFS is Linux-based, Linux and Unix-based operation system, file system. How is Microsoft running? It's running for Windows.
That's what it is. Okay, the question is actually because HDF is Linux-based, right? You say. Yes, it is Linux-based, but still HD Insight understands the Linux-based thing. So there are containers, there are simple things actually which you can do. There are upcoming slides actually, what are technologies that can help you to do that actually, because now we have SQL Server on the Linux as well, right? So that's how it is. So because now they're extending capabilities towards the Hadoop using HD Insight. HD Insight is nothing but Microsoft's Hadoop actually. Apache open source, they call Hadoop, yes, and Hortonworks, they also call HDP, Hortonworks Data Platform. Cloudera, it is called CDH, I believe, and what Microsoft calls is HD Insight. So that's how it understands, that's how it is. Yeah, there are some upcoming tools, like upcoming slides explains you how these things actually. These are the things are included as well, HBase, Hive, Pig, Storm, and everything, many more as well. So if you look at that, you can also integrate with the popular BI tools. If you are already using Tableau, or if you are using ClickView or using Power BI, you can still continue using that. You don't need to throw anything away. You can continue to integrate all of that things. So this is where exactly it gives the extensibility to your BI aspects. Apache on Azure actually, automatic cluster provisioning, you don't need to worry about that. There is no manual intervention. You can automatically scale out your cluster more, kind of thing. This is where you can change number of nodes. You can scale from 4 nodes to 90 nodes. Yes, obviously this is nothing but per usage more, like how much time you are using, because we are talking about Azure, in Azure. This is not like on-premise actually. High availability, yes, it depends, 99.9% SLA can be achieved. How Azure, how Microsoft, kind of promises to you actually. And HD Insight includes a secondary head mode as well, so that your data is already replicated over there. You don't need to worry about that. And obviously, HDFS can be mapped over to Azure Blob Storage. It is nothing but Azure related to the storage actually. Yes, you can map that into that actually by using WASB protocol. So that's how it can be mapped together, so that there is a compatibility within Azure Blob Storage and as well as HDFS. Talk about the cluster types actually. There are Hadoop, the query uploads. The query uploads are kind of different cluster type, and also HBase. NoSQL workloads actually, the key database layer for the Hadoop actually. This is where exactly the distributed database offering happens actually, to access a large amount of the data. Storm, it is nothing but streaming the workloads actually. So this is the key aspects of how you analyze the data, how you build analytics on top of existing processing. This is what's happening. And Spark, which is nothing but high performance workload. This is nothing but when somebody is saying that they're using Spark, It is nothing but the in-memory capabilities of within Hadoop. So this is what in SQL Server we have in-memory capabilities. So whereas in the Hadoop world, it is called Spark. HD Insight supports Hive. Hive is nothing but a query language. SQLite queries, yes, you can still continue using Hive because HD Insight supports Hive as well. I give you a little list of what's different between the traditional SQL and how the HiveQL works in terms of that. The select, yes, SQL 92 supports it. Whereas HiveQL, as you can see, there are little changes in between how you query the data. And when we talk about the default join types, we have inner join, outer join, and all that. But whereas in Hive, it is called equi-join. So how you do that? And whereas the built-in functions are the multiple table inserts. I think now SQL started using like where you can do supported in SQL some of the SQL, but whereas it is already supported in HiveQL because it's a different type of language. Yes, the basic language is nothing but the query language. The same, how you query the data is more important. This is what it is. So anyway, that's about that. HBase, as I said, HBase is nothing but a database, Hadoop database. Let's call it as a Hadoop database, and a NoSQL, kind of database, which is nothing but columnar. So and runs on top of HDFS actually. So how we have Windows, on top of Windows we have SQL Server database. The same way HBase is on top of HDFS. NoSQL database is Hadoop model as a Google big table, so that's where it has begun everything. So it can provide you the random access, the capability of doing this, semi-structured data actually, the schemaless database, because NoSQL itself is schemaless. You don't need to have a schema. And database is organized by the column name, so that's why you have the speed of that, and that's where from SQL 2014 or maybe SQL 2012 we have like column store indexes that within the SQL Server that gives a high performance as well, or maybe for that. Anyway, data is stored in the rows of table actually the same way how it is. That is about the HBase. So still HD Insight still support the HBase. Mahout is nothing but the machine learning library. So in the Azure world, yes, it is called Azure Machine Learning, AML, whereas in Hadoop world, it is called Mahout, and HD Insight supports Mahout as well. And the next thing is Storm. Storm is nothing but streaming, streaming analytics to give you the near real-time analytics onto that actually. So if you look out here, let me zoom in again. So this is what it is actually. Apache Storm applications are used more like a topology. The topology is nothing but the graph computation of that. As you can see, within Storm, these are the common areas, common terminologies you would hear: spout, bolt, tuples. So how this happens? Spout is nothing but consume data from the data source actually. So if I go back and zoom in this side of that actually, so this is what it is. The spout is nothing but it is extracted, kind of expedited towards the bolts, and the bolt, that's how it just, kind of consumes the data and gets the data. But these are the general things which I would like to give you, how Storm works and what are the abilities. Yes, ability to write Storm components using C# and the Java and as well as Python. You can still continue what you are doing at the moment. You don't need to learn the new language or to understand, because that gives you supportability for that. Spark, we talked about Storm, so Spark is also most important aspect of that actually. So if I zoom in again, this is what it is. Within HD Insight, we have these things actually within the Spark. HD Insight cluster might have, this is how it looks: master node, the worker node, the data node, and that's how you can do that. And also the containers actually. See that the Spark layer is nothing but how it uses. Spark core is nothing but it includes Spark SQL again, that is accessibility, and the graphics. These are different tools. You can also use Anaconda and as well as the ODBC driver, where the ODBC driver where you can directly connect to your Spark using the Power BI or the Tableau. Because what Spark is used for, it is nothing but interactive manipulation and the visualization, because it gives you the interactive manipulation of how we see the Power BI or how the third-party tools are giving actually. So inside on top of Hadoop actually or HD Insight, this is how we can do. It uses the in-memory technology for the higher processing, for the faster query processing. That's about the technology, right? Okay, the outside of this actually, this is what, okay, TCO, the total cost ownership, the deployment, and the redundancy. These are the most important aspect, right? HD Insight automatically replicates the data so that you don't need to worry about the redundancy of the data. Depending on your agreement with the Microsoft Azure, the type of agreement you have, the geo-replication. Yes, the data resides in the same country as per the data governance aspect. So there are no kind of not your data will be stored somewhere other side of the world. It is not that, because they are strictly followed by the governance rules. HD Insight, it deployed in minutes, because you don't need to worry about, if you asked about a server to our IT people, normally nowadays it takes maybe a week, because they need to procure the hardware, or maybe a month. So, but now within Azure, it deployed in minutes, because everything is available there. So you can just simply with a click or define, you can get that. And it is built by usage actually. How much time you are using the query, or sorry, how much time you are using the machine, it is built only for that time. After that you can shut down your clusters, or you can totally remove them so that you don't get charged. So that, but whereas on-premise it is different. You cannot, like if you shut it down, you need to get it back. So there are a lot of other layers over there. But whereas in Azure, this is an easy way of, it can be deployed in minutes. The geo redundancy is possibility, and HD Insight is built by usage. The cost can be calculated as well. It is nothing but HD Insight gives the ability to connect the cloud and as well as on-premise actually, on-premise on Hadoop. So this is where exactly the combined technology. And Microsoft is only vendor at the moment is offering the same way of how you can do that, your on-premise Hadoop or on-premise BI capabilities to build the big data capabilities using HD Insight. So there are certain tools as well, such as UI-based tools. So these are the key tools which you would come across within the Azure Marketplace. As we all see within Azure Marketplace, these are the key tools which you can use, how you can contract to that. Whereas cluster-based customized operations, so you can do via Azure portal, because that's where, so that's the key aspect for that actually. Using your Azure portal, you can deploy, you can define the storage accounts, you can define what exactly you need to require. And for scripting, either you can use a jar files or jar file placement in the cluster, the config values, everything can be done actually. So how it is done is ready for deployment, accepted, cluster storage provisioning, and that's how it happens actually. So once the customer cluster is over here, if it is yes, the cluster will be available. See, this is a key layer, happens deployed in minutes actually. So once you define that, once you give the name of the server, how many nodes you are looking into that actually. If you want to distribute like 8 data nodes, 1 master node and 1 name node, so that's how it deployed in minutes for you to that. Let me introduce to the zoo, right? Why it is called zoo? Because we have animal names here. So let's call about that. It is nothing but both Hadoop and HD Insight ecosystem actually. Yes, the red one in the screen you can see, these are the core Hadoop ones actually. For the distributed processing, distributed storage, as we talked about HDFS, and the blue, these are for the data processing, like pig for Hive for the query language, and also for the metadata layer, HCatalog. That is also there within the Hadoop actually. The green ones, these are the graph, more like packages. As we talked about packages, R packages, kind of Hadoop kind of related packages, Mahout, machine learning packages. The purple ones means the dark blue ones here, we can see the PowerShell. These are core Microsoft ones, C#, F# and .NET related. And the vertical ones, it is nothing but ODBC and Scoop, where we can use for the data integration, the data connectivity between the source and the destination. Again, we can also define the SQL, so because it's already there, HD Insight provides us to that actually. The pipeline workflow, Oozy, this is called, it is called Oozy within Hadoop layer, but whereas within Azure, it is called Azure Data Factory. We also have that. NoSQL database, HBase, obviously, because this is more or less kind of, on the both layers, this is what I would like to present. So you can still continue to use your system center, because that's where the monitoring thing happens actually, and you can also look into the different, kind of applications. World's data, which is called like what other providers, the third-party providers are providing. You don't need to build the core on top of that, because it's already something available there actually. How do you deploy that? You don't need to like go and contact the vendor. You can go to Azure Marketplace, you can simply just kind of look into the terms and conditions. You see that, okay, how much time you're going to use. If it is well in the budget, go and buy, and that's where it comes. And this is what it is. See that when we look at the different aspects of how Hadoop and HD Insight ecosystem looks into system is, this is what it is, right? We talked about the deployment, we talked about the cost ownership. How about the programming actually? Yes? Yeah, this is the most important. Existing ecosystem, this is what the Hadoop and HD Insight offers. You can use kind of Hive, Big Scoop. You can still continue using .NET. You don't need to change that. You can still continue using the C#, F# code, or also the MapReduce related code where HD Insight supports that. If you are good in Java, yes, you continue using that. You don't need to change that. You don't need to only go with .NET, because when you talk about Azure, people will be thinking, oh, do I need to change from Java to .NET? No, not anymore. DevOps, more like for IT professionals actually, how do you manage? You can still continue using PowerShell, you can still continue using the system center related tools. So, how does this goes into like collect and load the big data? There are 5 layers which I would like to present here. One thing is interactive, so these are the tools. These are the different tools where you would come across. Interactive tools are the PowerShell, and the next thing are the Hadoop, Hadoop command line and AZ copy. Also the Visual Studio. There are certain third-party applications available. And the streaming data, the Apache Storm on HD Insight as we talked about, and as well as there are custom-based third-party tools available. Third thing, which is automated, Azure Data Factory, the workflow scheduler actually. How do you define your workflow? How do you define exactly data, the data transformation, the data journey actually, where it exactly happening. And also SSIS, you can still continue using SSIS on that. SQL Server log files, more like, like using Apache Flume, and as well as SSIS you can use. So these are the key tools or the key services that's already available within HD Insight. So it is a mixture of both relational kind of SQL Server relational and as well as the Hadoop based one, more like unstructured or structured we can say. There are 3 key challenges implementing the Hadoop. Obviously, upfront hardware cost, because the hardware is because the number of nodes and servers when we look at it on-premise, it is too expensive. And the capacity planning, how do you plan that actually? Because you need to have a bigger data center, and obviously that's going to cost you the power, the management, and whatnot. And the expertise, because the skill set is also more important, right? So this is where exactly you need to understand how do you do that actually, because you need to get trained for that. So, and this is why Hadoop in cloud, and that's what Microsoft gives that. You have no hardware costs because it is managed by the Microsoft Azure, which is a platform as a service. Unlimited scaling, yes, how much time you're going to use, you're going to pay what you need. You don't need to kind of pay $100,000 and you just wait for kind of nothing. You can pay only and deployed in minutes. That is one aspect of that, that's why it is. So hence, this is what Microsoft is calling like a Microsoft data platform. So how they have defined that into different layers of that. Actually towards the visualization, what other products what other services have been given, and for the transformation and analyze, and how do you capture, where do you store the data. So this is how Microsoft looks like. Not only that, the Cortana Analytics Suite, this is a new thing aspect actually which they have started to pushing now actually. HD Insight and Hadoop, they have this actually, Cortana Analytics Suite. We do have that in the moment at this point of time, so we have good time over here. Okay, how about non-relational and the NoSQL database, right? When we talked about SQL Server in VM or a SQL Server database, what you have is a fully featured RDBMS. As we all know, SQL Server is a fully featured RDBMS, and rich query capabilities, Document DB. Document DB is nothing but it is available within Azure, which is a rich query capabilities, and it can talk to HBase. It can be installed on top of HBase actually, same like a NoSQL database actually. And as well as the transaction processing, as you can see, it expands towards the relational side and non-relational side. So Azure Document DB sits in between the traditional RDBMS world and as well as Hadoop. So that's why it gets best of the both actually. There is a link here actually which are provided if you want to get understanding of what exactly NoSQL means. So how do you get a speed up to the NoSQL actually? So like once you download the presentation, if you just click on the link, it will directly take on you there actually. So you don't need to worry about writing this big link anyway, don't worry. So this is what it is. It's a good white paper, talks about how NoSQL can helpful and that's where how the document DB has been done. Polybase, right? So that's a new technology or a new thing that SQL 2016 introduced. What is a polybase? It is nothing but a scalable T-SQL compatible actually. Yes, it is a technology, or you can call it as a technology, you can call it as a service, you can call it as a support or something, whatever. It talks to the both worlds, both RDBMS and as well as Hadoop. That's why it just, it is nothing but polybase is agnostic, which is no vendor lock-in. Yes, polybase can be used by IBM, can be used by Oracle, can be used, and it is supported Hadoop on the Linux and Hadoop on Windows as well. And polybase supports SD Insight and as well as external Hadoop clusters. And it integrates with the cloud as well. As you can see in SQL 2016, if you have tried to install, if you want to use a polybase, you need to install 2 additional services on top of this actually. Polybase interacts exactly to the Hadoop side and as well as RDBMS side. So you don't need to change your query. You can simply fire up your same transact SQL query using polybase. It goes to the Hadoop, it talks about, gets back then. That's where the understanding is actually. That's what the language understanding the polybase gives us actually. It is nothing but it builds the bridge between that, because polybase has got a runtime integration so that you don't need to worry about how do I deploy that, and it includes the Power BI as well, because runtime integration is nothing but, and this is why it is called polybase is best of both worlds actually. Best of both means you can simply use the Hadoop computation power, and you can also have understanding of the new data types or the new types that are kind of happening. Not only that, you can simply use analytical skills, and you can also use a query tool such as SSDT.
Yes.
You can still use SSDT for that. The deployment is also more important. The integration is more important, because how do you understand, how do you capture that? How do you integrate this code on top of test platform on the UAT? How do you test the code is actually, you don't need to worry about that. Polybase takes care of everything. So that's why SQL 2016 has gone into a kind of higher layer of within the data platform. R, yes, we all know about it. It's an industry standard for the computational mining. So R expands into a different worlds actually. As you can see, it's an object-oriented language. If you're a mathematician, then I don't need to tell you about what R is used, because you might have already used about the R. The statistical computations, the qualitative analysis, and analytics behind the scenes actually how it is offered. Why R is famous actually? It is nothing but R is famous for the, for the plotting, for these graphs and the plotters actually, as you can see, because management or maybe some of the data analysts or statisticians or scientists, they love to see these kind of graphs. And it is open source. Yes, there are certain open source things free to use, and as well as a multi-platform capability. Core R, you can go to the cranon.project.org, that's where exactly the R has began. And Revolution Analytics, this is the best option in terms of how they have expanded the R capabilities by using www.revolutionanalytics.com. So this is where Microsoft has partnered with them in SQL 2016, gave the capabilities of that. Azure Machine Learning, we already have the built-in within HD Insight. Within Azure services we have. And for the IDE, because if you use R, normal R, you need to use a command line operation. You don't have better IDE, means you don't have better, kind of GUI based kind of thing. So R Studio is something which you can download, and you can start working on that. Not only that, Azure Marketplace gives us the scripting library that's already there. These are the different examples that Azure Marketplace has got actually, like new R scripts where you can learn about that. These are the benefits actually. You don't need to rewrite the entire thing. If you are working in a financial organization, if they want to build a fraud detection kind of application, you can look into the Azure Marketplace. There are some scripting libraries already available. You can download them and you can start understanding exactly what are they and how it is being used actually, because they have been tested. Because when some application comes to Azure Marketplace, they have the full advantages of how it has been tested within the Microsoft, and they have been watched by the community actually. It is not just simply Microsoft bought something, like they bought a company and they wanted to put everything on that, because they would have all the deployment tested properly. When we talk about R, this is what exactly Revolution R Enterprise and as well as SQL 2016, these two key aspects of that. So on the right hand side, big data analytics, it is open source R, yes, you can still use. It's used for the statistical and the machine learning capabilities where you can build algorithms. So this is what the data science. Now we are kind of going into the data science layer actually. As you can see, you just write once and deploy anywhere. You don't need to kind of write in every aspects of that, because once you write a R based kind of script, actually you can deploy them in the non-Microsoft one as well, like Hadoop and the Teradata database as well. And obviously the HD Insight has also got integration with R ecosystem. And exploration, as we all know, SQL 2016 gives the RRE capabilities, like the RIDE capabilities for that. Operationalization, I know DBAs are very much worried about how this particular query runs, because R runs inside the SQL now. So you can govern them. You can use resource governor now to restrict the R related queries, so that you can dictate like this much CPU or this much memory can have by this R query. So yes, SQL 2016. And we also learned about SQL 2017 recently. Now the Python is supported. So the Python is not an external. Now Python runs inside the SQL. So we all know SQL 27. So you can see the capabilities, how SQL Server is also kind of expanding. It's not just a relational database, it's not just a database alone, because it gives you the capability, extensibility towards the Hadoop, towards the non-relational side as well. So what are the key advantages with Azure for big data actually? So this is a big question asked by kind of many people. You are like you are just simply promoting Microsoft, not just Microsoft, because now Microsoft takes from the community, takes from the developers and gives back to developers actually. So this is what it is. You can integrate on-premise data, so you don't need to worry about how do you deploy this, how do you do you want to move everything into the cloud? That's not a best practice. You can still integrate whatever you're doing at the moment, and you can extend the capability of that by using Azure capabilities. Big services, obviously, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And these three aspects are very much for that. And heterogeneity. When I say heterogeneity, you are not restricted to just to go on a separate operating system. You are not bound to develop only Windows operating system. If your business deals with other operating systems such as iOS, mobile platform, you can still continue using Android and iOS. Or if you are using a Linux-based or a Unix-based, you can build all those systems actually, so that Azure gives this capability of that actually heterogeneity. You don't need to worry about how we can do that. And obviously you can lower the risk. When I say lower the risk, it is nothing but you don't need to worry about what if my data gets lost. On-premise, by keeping high availability for this kind of a huge database, is obviously a big headache for every DBA, for all of us actually. Even for a smaller database, we take in a lot of steps. But for a bigger database, how do you do that? How quickly you can get back the data? Azure takes care of that because of the platform as a service providability. You can have the data available somewhere else actually, so that the key aspect, the key processing of your business acumen is not lost anywhere. One thing I just want to give you a note on this one actually. There is no suspend mode in HD Insight actually, because once you provision a cluster, make sure it works. Make sure your work is completed. Don't put in suspend mode. If you put in suspend mode, or if you want to pause that, then you will get charged. You will get charged by minute. By minute, how much the storage cost is kind of captured, the hardware cost, everything is kind of calculated per minute basis. So that's why once you deploy that in the in the cloud, start processing. Once it takes maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, that's it. Shut down those servers, so that you are only billed for those 2 hours or 3 hours how much time, and you can deploy from the portal, so that you don't need to worry about. So you can store that as a template. If you want that to happen every month or every week, you can simply click on that and it gets deployed, and you start fire up your thing and then undo that. Next slide. This is a very good slide for the architects actually, in a Hawkeye mode. So more look into the the higher level of that actually. And again, okay, I'm going to zoom it actually for your for the eyesight purpose actually. So if I come back here, so this is what is it actually, the security. So this is specifically about the HD Insight, about the Azure ones actually. So these are the key, kind of layers or icons which you get observed when you log on to your Azure portal. Because obviously the internet connection is not secure or not, not constant here. unfortunately I'm not able to show you the Azure portal of how I'm using that actually. So I have a very kind of flaky internet connection now, ultimately. So the service compute, as you can see the different aspects of that actually. So if I go back on the right hand side of that, we are coming to the end of the session anyway. So these are the ones you can directly deploy the SQL database, SQL Azure, kind of data warehouse database, and you don't need to worry about is it only SQL. You can also deploy the Hadoop related database or non-relational databases as well without as worrying anything. So how you look at Azure in a Hawkeye mode is this slide is very much kind of your architects would love this slide to see exactly, oh, this is what it is. These are the capabilities that you have. On that note, summary, big data is nothing but a data. Yes, that refers to a large and a complex, and sometimes it becomes too awkward to understand how you relate that data to this actually. And Hadoop and HD Insight is the answer for you actually. So, and that's where Microsoft gives you the capability, HD Insight as an answer for you, where you can have the best of both sides, both RDBMS and as well as the Hadoop. So HD Insight can give you that. You don't need to worry about the storage cost or how much limitation it is done, because sometimes there are some things actually, yes, there is no software, there is no technology is kind of latency proof actually. Yes, there are certain query results. Sometimes it might result in the latency, but that might be dependent on the other layers such as network, because we are talking about accessing the data on the internet, right? So if you are accessing data on internet, obviously there are certain other factors you need to take care of that. But to process the data that is more important. So the Power BI add-ins, nowadays the Power BI add-ins have been given so that you can take advantage of that, how Microsoft gives us capability of these solutions. Whereas I see big data is just as another data source. As we know, OLAP, OLTP, now the big data is nothing but yes, Hadoop related actually. I see all them as just a different data source. Anyway, we are coming to the end of the slide, end of the sessions actually. So these are some links actually where you can directly go to those. If you want to get understanding of Hotnotes tutorials, I kept some of the tools or links over there where you can go and start to work on your own. You can do that. If you're on Twitter, you can follow me, SQL Master. So where I tweet about my own findings, how I find that, how certain technology is being used. And also I do blog on my site, SQL Server-qa.net. I used to blog a lot, but sorry, nowadays I've been busy kind of traveling, so the blogging has been taken a back seat. But I promise I'm live. But nowadays I'm more active on the Twitter as well, so you can follow him on the Twitter, and this is where exactly. So and these slides are available on the SQL Saturday website. So you can simply go there on the sessions. You will see my session over there. You can download this for you. And I'm more than happy to take any questions you may have. And please don't forget to fill out the evaluation. And thank you.